Welcome to Unit 4 of the TESOL course at Southern Utah University. In this video, we'll be looking at pronunciation and focusing on the concept of segment. Segmentals are part of pronunciation, and they focus on the consonant and vowel sounds. Pronunciation is part of 4 language systems, which also includes vocabulary, grammar, and culture. In order for a teacher to effectively teach these systems, the teacher needs to understand these systems. One of the major challenges to teaching pronunciation is that teachers may be proficient in English pronunciation but not understand how to explain it to others. So they need to learn the language and the vocabulary for explaining English pronunciation to others. Others may know that vocabulary, but may feel uncomfortable with their own pronunciation. So what we need to recognize is that there's many varieties of English pronunciation. As long as we can be clearly understood and we know how to explain the system, we should feel comfortable including that in our teaching. Pronunciation has 2 main categories, segmentals and supersegmentals. As we mentioned, we'll focus on segmentals in this video. A separate video will focus on the supersegmentals. Another name for segmentals could be phonemes. A phoneme is considered to be the smallest unit of sound within a language. It is considered that's an individual sound that's distinct from other sounds in the language. So generally we think of these as the consonant and vowel sounds of the language. If you were to be asked how many phonemes, how many consonant and vowels are there in English, what answer would you give? The truth can be a little surprising. We have about 24 consonant sounds in General American English and at least another 15 vowels for a total of 39 phonemes or segmental sounds. This is challenging because our alphabet system uses 26 letters, and clearly we don't have enough letters to represent all of the sounds that we use. Here is a chart that represents the consonant sounds in General American English. This chart may seem a little overwhelming at first, but we'll go through and explain it a little bit better. The first thing to keep in mind is that within each cell there are 3 rows. The first row represents the symbol or alphabet letter that is most often used to represent that sound in English. The second row represents a word that uses that sound. The third row between the slashes is the International Phonetic Alphabet or IPA symbol for that sound. The IPA is used to describe a variety of languages and sounds across all languages, so sometimes the symbol that is used in IPA matches the sound that we think of in English, sometimes it's different. When we describe consonant sounds in English, linguists use 3 main ways to describe those sounds. First is voicing, if the voice box vibrates when we make that sound. So we can have voiced or voiceless sounds. We also think about the place of articulation, meaning where in the mouth and what parts of the mouth or the nasal cavity are being used to create that sound. And then lastly, manner of articulation means how those body parts are moving in order to create the sound. So voicing, place, and manner of articulation are the ways that we describe sounds in English. If you look at our diagram here, you can see that they're using some of the linguistic and biological terms for these parts of the body. So they may talk about a labial sound, that means the lips. Dental sounds would involve the teeth, and so on. As we move further back in the mouth, there are different labels for different parts of the nasal and oral cavity. As we look at this chart, the first 2 rows include sounds that have the same manner and place of articulation. The only difference between the top row and the middle row is that the top row is a voiced sound and the middle row is the voiceless sound. So for instance, go ahead and take your hand, place it against your voice box on your throat there at your neck, and make the B sound, which is B, B. You should feel some vibration against your fingers. Now keep your hand there and make the P sound. Now remember, this is not a vowel attached to a P sound. We don't say P, we just say P, P. You'll notice there's no vibration there. And that's the representation that B and P have the same place of articulation and same manner of articulation. They're both bilabial, meaning 2 lips, and they're stopped, so we get a puff of air coming out. But the B sound is the voiced version, the P sound is the voiceless version. pairing then with the D and T sounds, a voiced and voiceless version. And here the manner of articulation is the same. They're both stops, but we move the tongue behind the ridge of the top teeth. With the G and K, there's another pair, okay, a voiced and voiceless version, but now the sound is further back in the mouth towards the throat. These are velar stops, okay, we have the G and the K. V and F, there's another pairing, okay, these are called labiodental stops, or fricatives, and what we do is we place the upper teeth against the bottom lip, and we get a V and a F. The Z or Z and S sounds are both sibilants, okay, and we place the tongue right behind the teeth, and we get a S and a Z, voice and voiceless version. J and CH are pairs as well. We have the J and the Ch. This next pairing of sounds, we don't have a good symbol or alphabet letter in English to show the voiced version of this sound, but this is the J sound. We see it in words like measure and vision. It's not used at the beginning of English words unless those words have been borrowed from other languages, such as genre, that comes from French. And then the voiceless version, which is sh. So j and sh. And then our last pairing here are the TH sounds in English. Many English speakers think of this as one sound because we use the same spelling for both sounds, but there is a difference. We have the th and we have the s. And these sounds can be difficult for speakers of other languages because they're not used to having these, what we would call an interdental sound. We place the tongue between the teeth. If some learners have difficulty with that, I often tell them place your tongue against the teeth and you'll get a very similar sound. Now along the bottom row, especially these first three, they actually have the same place of articulation as the sounds above them. But the difference here is the manner of articulation is different. So with our M sound, these M, N, and Ng sounds, these are all nasal sounds. We, with the M sound, do a bilabial, close your lips again, but force the air out through your nose, and you get Same with the N, make a T or a D, but then force the air out through your nose, and you get an And then the ng sound, we often represent this in English by an N and a G, but it's not an N sound and then a G sound. It's its own sound. Okay, and you open your mouth like you're going to make a K or a G, but let the air go out your nose, and you get Sound is the H sound, okay, which is a glottal sound, which means it's back in the throat. You let the breath of air go out, and you get H. Our last four sounds are sometimes considered approximates, which means they're kind of like vowels and they're kind of like consonants. The first two are called liquids. They're very similar, but the difference is with the L, we pull the tongue across the mouth to get L, and the R, we bunch the tongue back a little bit and raise it up and we get R. These two sounds are sometimes called glides, and this is because the mouth is changing as we make the vowel sound. So with the W sound, we get W, and with the Y sound we get Y. So that's a summary of the consonant sounds in general American English, and we can use voicing, place of articulation, and manner of articulation to describe all of these sounds. And if you want to learn more, there's lots of resources online to learn the technical descriptions for each of those sounds. Here is a chart that represents the vowel sounds in English. Now each dialect of English is going to use different vowel sounds, but these are the 15 that are most common in general American English. Along the top, we have what we often think of as the short vowel, and then the long vowel sound, and we have other vowel sounds. The terms short and long are not really good ways to describe these. Here's what linguists often use to describe English vowels. They talk about whether the vowel is high or low in the mouth, whether it's near the front of the mouth or the back of the mouth, and sometimes they'll also talk about tense or lax vowels. The diagram here should represent the mouth and the positioning of the tongue within the mouth. So the front is the front of the mouth near the teeth, and the back is closer to the throat. The high is the roof of the mouth, and the low part is along the bottom of the mouth and the jaw. Here are a set of vowels that were common in English, and we can see how they're placed within this chart to represent where the tongue and the mouth should move to create the vowels. If we go to a high front vowel, we get what we think of as a short I sound, the I. and you can feel that. It's high up. As we move down from I, we get eh in the middle of the mouth, and then even lower, drop your jaw, you get the ah. So we have short I, short E, short A. I, eh, ah. In the middle central part of the mouth, we get the short U sound, the sound. And we also have another vowel, high back vowel. This vowel in English letters is often represented by a double O, and it's the sound, like in the word book. Here are some more vowels, okay? And we can see here there's a high front vowel, just like with the short I, but this high front vowel is long E, and it's tense, so you can feel your tongue being pulled tighter across your mouth to make the sound, the E versus E. E, E. As we go down to mid-front, we get A, Eh. We also have in the low central, we have the ah sound, and you can really feel your jaw drop with that one. We also have the oo and o sounds at the back. This dotted line here represents the separation between what are the tense and what are the lax vowel sounds. And generally we see tense vowel sounds closer to the outside of the mouth because the tongue is being pulled more. We see the lax vowel sounds closer to the middle of the mouth where there's a more relaxed feeling in the mouth. I've just added two more sounds to the middle central part of the mouth, and essentially you'll notice there that upside down backwards E, that's called the schwa. It's the same sound as the short U sound. The only difference is short U is used to represent when it's a stressed vowel sound, the schwa is when it's unstressed. And we'll talk more about stressed in our next video. That last sound there that looks like a schwa with a little curl on the end, that's just showing a schwa that has an R attached to it, and some linguists represent that as a distinct sound rather than just a schwa and an R, but it's just a different way to represent the same kind of sound. We also have three more sounds that are considered diphthongs. Diphthongs are sounds that begin in one part of the mouth and end in the other. So along from left to right there we have the I, ow, and oi sounds, and you can feel your mouth changing shape as those sounds are produced. So there's our vowel sounds in English. Obviously different dialects of English will have a different set of sounds. Some forms of American English are actually merging some of these sounds, and they'll have fewer vowel sounds than what other dialects have. So this has been our video where we've talked about consonant and vowel sounds in English.